Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and the biggest development today was, of course, heartbreak for Indian fans. India's crashed out of the Cricket World Cup in the semi-finals, losing to Australia by 95 runs. What really happened? We'll be discussing that with a special guest. Senior journalist Jaideep Ghosh will be joining us. All that and more over the next half hour. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. India fails to make it to the Cricket World Cup finals, loses by 95 runs in a one-sided semi-final match dominated by Australia. Supreme Court allows the government to finalize spectrum auction results. Order will allow Exchequer to collect upfront payment of over 28,000 crore rupees. Foreign outflows fears spook markets. Sensex sheds over 600 points to register its biggest fail in 10 weeks. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar meets Prime Minister Narendra Modi, tells him that his state can't fulfill the Finance Commission's recommendations. And Yemen on the brink of a civil war as Saudi Arabia leads 10-nation Gulf coalition airstrikes. Iran-backed Houthi rebels call for end to hostilities. Well, top story this evening is, of course, that Australia have powered into the World Cup final with a 95-run victory over defending champions India in Sydney today. They will meet fellow co-host New Zealand in the Sunday's final in Melbourne. India's near-flawless title defence so far came to an agonising end as the clinical Australians decimated the defending champions. Steve Smith struck a fluent 105 of 93 balls and Aaron Finn scored 81 as Australia posted 328 for 7, the highest score in a World Cup semi-final. India made a solid start in reply but then lost 4 wickets in quick succession for 32 runs and fell well short on 233. Skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni tried to steady the ship for a bit but was too late in the day. He top-scored with 65 runs of 65 balls. All in all, it was a disappointing batting show as the Indians just wilted away under pressure. They barely made it past the 200-run mark. At the top, Shikhar Dhawan was another notable performer with a 45-run knock, but he almost threw his wicket away, and that, according to the skipper himself, was one of the crucial reasons for India's loss. The Indians had just no answers to the Aussie pacers Mitchell Johnson, Mitchell Starc, and Josh Hazlewood, who kept taking wickets at regular intervals. And senior sports journalist Jaideep Ghosh joins us. Jaideep, first for the Indian fans, World Cup semi-final loss, most fans would be inconsolable, but India performed well through and through this World Cup, just wasn't their day today?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is with us guys, we are very emotional about our cricket, so we cannot accept defeats, especially in this kind of situation in a World Cup semi-final, quarter-final, final, any kind of knockout match, simply because we want our team to win. So it was always going to be difficult. It was never like you had a cakewalk that you get into the semi-finals and you are walking through to the final. And you're playing Australia, for heaven's sake. Australia is the #1 team in the world. They're playing at home. They have the best fast bowling attack anywhere in cricket. So to anticipate that we are going to win and walk into the final was a little bit optimistic to start with. And yeah, things once Michael Clarke won the toss, it was always going to be an uphill battle because there was a stage when they were threatening to score.
Was the toss that crucial, Jaideep? Was the toss that crucial? Was that the determining factor?
Oh yes, absolutely. Once you have put 300 plus runs on the board, which at one stage looked like closer to 400 than 300, and 330, 340 is a target where you have to just bowl averagely good. You don't have to be excellent also. Even if you can keep the opposition to around 5.5 runs and over, you've done your job, because the asking rate just rockets, and by the end of say 35 or 36 overs, you are looking at 10 runs and over, 11 runs and over, and once that happens, all teams will crack. So only once in maybe 10 matches that a 300 is chased down successfully, especially in a knockout match.
Alright, if we talk about first in the Indian bowling performance, it started off well. David Warner was out, but then Steve Smith came in and really, the Indians really had no answers to the Aussies at that point of time. But the Indians then seemed to pull it back for a bit, but not enough. 328, too mammoth the total. The bowlers gave away too many.
See, I think realistically, if we were chasing around 280, 290, we still would be in with a shout. Once you cross that 300 barrier, mentally it becomes a big thing that you have to start at 6 runs and over right from the beginning. So, yeah, the bowling did well. It's been doing well throughout the tournament. I don't think there's much to be taken away, given that the pitch was absolutely a belter. There was nothing for the spinners. There was nothing even for, I mean, you have to be outstandingly good as a fast bowler to get a lot of success out of it. I think Umesh Yadav did a pretty decent job. Although he gave away a lot of runs, which eventually, in the sum total, it was the runs that we conceded. So yeah, I mean, we can't say they did a bad job, but given that we recovered very well after the kind of partnership that Smith had struck up. But then again, we were always chasing this game, and
and talking about the chase, I mean, the batting at 76 was 0 in 12 overs. It seemed that India could be in with a chance, but then one after the other, the top order just collapsed.
See, that is exactly what I'm telling you, that once you're chasing 330, 340 runs, you need to make one mistake, maximum of two mistakes, and your game plan has just gone through the window, out of the window. The whole idea would have been obviously to keep your wickets intact for at least 15 to 20 overs, get to about 100, 150 or maybe 130 and then attack from there. But once you lose two quick wickets like you had Shikhar Dhawan and Virat Kohli going very quickly, once Virat Kohli is out, that mentally is a huge dent for the Indian batting because nobody can convert runs barring maybe Dhoni towards the end. But Dhoni is not a top order batsman. Virat Kohli's innings was crucial. His failure was, I think, equally crucial for India not making the target.
All right. Now, if we talk about moving forward from here, I mean, as far as the Indian team goes, I mean, you mentioned it yourself that over here in India, the expectations are really high from our team, and that, of course, then trickles down to the selectors and the entire process that goes into team selection. So, from here on, do we see major changes happening? How do you see the performance as far as this World Cup being read for the team?
Well, very honestly, I would believe that a semi-final in a World Cup was about as good as this team was. This team was not, it was winning, it was doing well, but it was never looking like a world beater out and out, because you need to know and understand what is the kind of opposition you are against, who are the teams you've beaten out. The 7 teams, 3 are very, very average sides, which, any decent team will beat on their day. And given that our bowling was always supposed to be suspect and our batting never clicks in, there's never 4 batsmen who click together, 1, 2 maximum. So under those circumstances and the fact that we are playing Australia in this semi-final, I think semi-final was a fair return for our investment, and I don't think there is any real alarm bells to be rung.
One of the first questions that MS Dhoni was asked after the completion of the match was, now that this is over, now that this World Cup is over, what about retirement? And he's dismissed those rumours, but given in India, once again, that we're so emotional about it, that people do get involved and a lot of comments do start coming in. Do we see that happening already? He's retired from Test captaincy and from Test cricket.
Well, I don't see there is any reason for him to retire on performance of the team, because, I mean, this is as good as you lost out 1 match out of 8-9 matches. It just so happened that you lost out in the semi-final. That's just bad luck. But on form, on performance of the team, I don't think there's any reason, especially after the way he batted today. I don't think there is any earthly reason for him to retire. But if he wants to retire himself, that's a different thing. Otherwise, I don't think there is any reason for anybody to complain. Yeah, winning the World Cup would have been great, but you cannot win every time. So that's the nature of the game.
All right, on that note, we'll have to leave it at that. That's the nature of the game, as Jaideep puts it. But Jaideep Ghosh, thanks very much for coming in and helping us understand what happened today in the match a little better. All right, moving on now, we'll take a very quick break, but coming up on the other side, a JAT delegation has met Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's assured them of a solution soon on the reservation crisis. More on that after the break.
"28 years after a brutal massacre. A verdict acquitting the accused. Will Hashimpura's victims ever get justice? Watch the big picture, 6:30 and 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, the Supreme Court today allowed the government to announce the winners of Wednesday's spectrum auction The auction garnered nearly 1.10 lakh crore rupees. The government said it wants to realize the amount to reduce its fiscal deficit. The court permitted finalization of the auction. The government is to get a minimum of 28,000 crore rupees as upfront money. The court was hearing petitions filed by some top telecom companies who called the entire auction process flawed. Former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram said companies were forced to bid in thousands of crores of rupees. He said that companies that won had only 10 days to pay the money. Chidambaram warned of a hike in mobile call rates, but Attorney General Mukul Rohtagi argued the success of the auction proved that tender terms were workable. The court will now hear petitions challenging tender conditions on the 16th of April. It was a bad day for investors as the markets crashed heavily today. The Sensex fell over 600 points and the Nifty 2 recorded a new low with a fall of over 2% on Thursday. The crash marked a huge reversal of sorts since only 3 weeks ago the Sensex touched 30,000 points. Thursday's crash was largely due to foreign investors pulling out after Saudi Arabia launched airstrikes in Yemen. Analysts also believe that lack of positive triggers in the domestic markets is unable to take the earnings higher. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar called upon the Prime Minister in the capital to seek financial assistance for his state Bihar. It was the first time that he was meeting Prime Minister Modi after taking over as Bihar Chief Minister after 4.5 years. The Prime Minister's office called the meeting a courtesy call. Alright, and moving on now, a delegation of Jat leaders met Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well today. The meeting comes after the Supreme Court quashed reservations for the community under the OBC category in 9 states on the 17th of March. Here's more on this.
The Jat community is worried. A 70-member delegation from various states met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday to seek a review of the verdict scrapping the OBC category reservation for them.
3 मांगे जाट समाज ने माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के सामने रखी। उन्होंने निवेदन किया कि हमारा जो ये आरक्षण है जिसके प्रतिकूल निर्णय 17 तारीख को आया है इसको यथावत रखा जाए और जो हमारे बच्चों को पढ़ाई में और जो हमारे लोगों को नौकरियों में लाभ मिला है उसको किसी प्रकार की हानि ना हो।
यादव गुर्जर या दूसरे जो भी ओबीसी में हैं वो जाटों के समकक्ष है। जब उनको आरक्षण मिल सकता है तो जाटों को क्यों नहीं मिल सकता। तो इन्होंने भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने और सरकार ने पूर्णतः आश्वासन दिया है कि जाटों को आरक्षण मिलेगा। थोड़ा बहुत समय लग सकता है वो अलग मैटर है।
हमने उनको ज्ञापन सौंपा और ज्ञापन में हमने कहा कि हर दृष्टि से गांव में आज भी हमारे बच्चों के पास में नौकरी नहीं है और जो नौकरी आरक्षण की वजह से मिलना शुरू हुई थी उसके ऊपर में रोक लग गई है।
The Prime Minister Narendra Modi assured the delegation that his government is studying the court's decision and will try to find a solution within the legal framework.
देखिए जाट आरक्षण जो रद्द हुआ है पिछली बार जो हड़बड़ी में जल्दबाजी में बिना होमवर्क के आरक्षण दिया गया था ये पिछली सरकार की कमी थी। भारतीय जनता पार्टी का हमेशा पक्ष रहा है कि जाटों को आरक्षण मिलना चाहिए। जाट एक पिछड़ी जाति है और अभी भी अध्यक्ष जी ने और सबकी तरफ से आश्वासन यही है कि सरकार इस मामले में आगे बढ़ेगी और किसी भी तरीके से वो जाटों को आरक्षण दिलवाने का प्रयास किया जाएगा।
On March 17, the Supreme Court scrapped the previous UPA government ruling that granted backward class status to the Jat community under the OBC quota. The Modi-led government had also backed its predecessor's decision. The BJP government in Haryana too come out in full support for the reservations. The petitioners challenged the UPA government's decision and called it a politically motivated move. The Supreme Court has also asked government to draw new guidelines of backwardness in forming its OBC list. Bureau report for Rajya Sabha TV.
A parliamentary standing committee is exploring options on holding simultaneous general and state elections. Experts feel that the constitution has enough provisions to allow this.
Will simultaneous elections to the Lok Sabha and the state assemblies take place after 2019, 52 years after the formation of the Indian Republic? That is the question which the Rajya Sabha Standing Committee on Personnel, Public Grievances, Law and Justice will be answering in a detailed report. The panel has sought suggestions from all national and state parties and even ordinary people and political organizations.
Overall opinion, public opinion is created that why every time, every year we have to go to the polling station and vote for the government. Why not we have allow the government which is elected for 5 years should see that their promises which were made in their election manifesto being implemented.
The committee wants a public debate so that development work of the country can continue uninterrupted. Each year on average, elections are held in 4 to 5 states. As a consequence, the Model Code of Conduct that comes into effect puts on hold policy making for at least over a month. Moreover, elections are themselves a costly affair. In 2014, the government spent 3,246 crores on the Lok Sabha elections. This was 131% more than the total spending in 2009. In 1952, while the cost per voter was 60 paise, it had gone up many times to 15 rupees in 2014. Political parties together are estimated to have spent nearly 26,500 crore rupees. Analysts say there can be many options on holding simultaneous Lok Sabha and Assembly elections. For instance, elections to the Lok Sabha can be held in some states before the term ends, while in others whose term ends much before the decided date for the general election. A coalition government can govern under a common minimum program, or such states can be put under President's rule.
भारत सरकार एक बार ये निर्णय ले लेती है कि हमें जहां तक संभव हो जल्दी से जल्दी सब चुनाव एक साथ कराने हैं, तो मैं समझता हूं साल नहीं तो 2 साल, 4 साल, 5 साल के अंदर अधिक से अधिक ऐसी स्थिति पैदा की जा सकती है कि सारे चुनाव एक साथ हों.
Till 1967, simultaneous elections were held for Lok Sabha and state assemblies. Dissolution of some state assemblies in 1968 and 1969 broke this pattern. Pranav Goswami's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
At a time when the AFPA debate is regaining ground, former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah asserted today that dialogue was the only way to resolve the Kashmir issue. Omar said successive governments had tried to resolve the Kashmir issue through force, but they all failed. He further added that the gun is no solution to the Kashmir situation. Omar's statement comes at a time when rival PDP, which is in power in the state, is batting for talks with Pakistan and international stakeholders like Hurriyat to resolve the issue. The party also wants to revoke the Armed Forces Special Powers Act from the state. The BJP-led NDA government has given the first indication that it may be willing to make compromises on amendments that the opposition is seeking in the land acquisition bill. The change in tactic comes just days after the budget session ended without the bill being passed. It could be because the RSS has cautioned the BJP of the groundswell of opposition it could face from farmers. The RSS has warned that going forward on the bill could even cost the party the upcoming elections in Bihar and other states.
The government is willing to compromise on the contentious land acquisition bill, giving into opposition pressure. In the first indication of this, Parliamentary Affairs Minister M. Venkaiah Naidu reached out to the opposition, saying that important legislations should not be used for political gains. He also said that the ordinance on the land bill was in the larger interest of the country.
हम बता रहे विपक्ष को कोई अच्छा सुझाव है और भी सुधारने के लिए है तो आप दीजिए और बिल को साथ दीजिए, इसको पारित करने में मदद करिए और किसानों के हित में हम मिलकर काम करें, ये हमारा विनती है विपक्ष से.
The party is clearly in a dilemma over the bill, and it is not just about having the numbers to get the bill passed in Rajya Sabha. The bigger problem is the amount of resistance to it that the opposition has managed to whip up among farmers.
कई लोग इकट्ठा हो गए, उनको आप कहा कि ये तो किसानों के हित को नुकसान पहुंचाने वाला है, किसानों को जो है वो के लिए जो है वो विरोध में है. ये जो है इसको हम ध्वस्त करेंगे.
The BJP is asking its party leaders and workers to counter the opposition and clarify the issue to farmers, and also convey that the bill is to their benefit.
जून 2014 में एक कॉन्फ्रेंस होती है, उसमें लगभग सभी राज्यों के प्रतिनिधि, मुख्यमंत्री वगैरह आते हैं, और आने के बाद जो है वो सबकी एक बार एक आम सहमति बनती है कि साहब जो प्रेजेंट भूमि अधिग्रहण कानून है उसमें कई तरह की खामियां हैं, उसकी वजह से कई तरह का जो डेवलपमेंटल एक्टिविटी है वो उसमें रोक लग रही है.
Even though the government is not willing to yield without a fight, it also knows that the issue is an explosive one. Some of its allies are also against any amendments to the bill, while senior leaders have cautioned prudence in stepping back in the face of a majority public opinion.
BJP is fighting perception battle on the issue of land bill. Party feels if government goes ahead with this bill, party can be branded as anti-farmer and anti-poor. On the other hand, government feels going back on this bill will not be a good idea, as it can dent strong image of Prime Minister Narendra Modi itself. With cameraman Arvind, this is Shyam Sundar, Rajya Sabha TV, Delhi.
Now let's take a look at some more national news in Nationwide. James Murdoch, Chief Operating Officer of 21st Century Fox, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Thursday in Delhi. James Murdoch is the son of Rupert Murdoch, the founder of News Corp, which is one of the world's largest news and information service providers. 2 weeks after the rape of a 72-year-old nun, police have arrested 2 men. Police identified 4 of the 6 robbers through CCTV footage and detained 8 people for questioning. More arrests are expected in the next couple of days. Congress MLAs sat for an indefinite hunger strike from Thursday in the Madhya Pradesh Assembly, demanding compensation for rain and hailstorm hit farmers. The parties demanded 150 rupees per quintal bonus for wheat, waiving of electricity bills for farmers, and suspending loan recovery, among other things. Nashik police registered their first case under a new law banning beef, booking 3 people for allegedly slaughtering 2 calves. The police are on the lookout for the 3 accused. If convicted, the accused will face 5 years in jail with an additional fine of 10,000 rupees. Time for another quick break, but coming up ahead, the Sri Lankan president meets his Chinese counterpart. Sri Lanka and China look to mend ties.
दहेज कानून बदलने की तैयारी में सरकार। धारा 498A में संशोधन का खाका तैयार। क्या दुरुपयोग पर लगेगी लगाम? देखिए देश देशांतर, दहेज कानून में संशोधन, आज रात 8:30 बजे।
In the Maths Factor, we travel through time and space and see how maths has evolved and how it is a part of the world around us. Join us on Rajya Sabha television. Watch the Maths Factor every Sunday at 8 a.m.
The Parliament has passed the insurance bill. What is the impact? What would the consumer get? Watch our special report, Insurance Payoff, only on Rajya Sabha television tonight at 10:30 p.m.
Welcome back. Now, Saudi Arabia and the Gulf region allies today launched massive airstrikes in Yemen to counter advances of the Houthi rebels. Rebel ally Iran slammed the Saudi-led intervention. Meanwhile, supporters of President Mansour Hadi said they recaptured the Aden airport, where the president has taken shelter.
Yemen in the verge of a fully blown civil war. Saudi Arabia and Gulf allies are striking back against rebels in a massive military operation. Over 1 lakh troops and 100 warplanes are being deployed. Egypt, Jordan, Sudan and Pakistan extended their support to Saudi Arabia against rebels. Houthi rebels slammed the Arab intervention, warning serious consequences.
We will do whatever it takes in order to protect the legitimate government of Yemen from falling and from facing any dangers from an outside militia. We have a situation where you have a militia group that is now in control or can be in control of ballistic missiles, of heavy weapons and of an air force.
We have been contacted by Saudi Arabia in this regard. The matter is being examined. That's all I have to say at the moment.
Yemen's president appears to be losing control of his last stronghold. Reports suggest that he has fled to a safer location from the presidential compound. Yemen's foreign minister said Hadi is in a safe location and they have taken control of the crucial airport in Aden.
حاولون طبعا الهجوم على الرئيس، حاولوا اليوم قصف الرئيس بالطائرات، حاولوا أيضا اقتحام بعض المؤسسات في المناطق المحاذية لعدن. الحمد لله حتى الآن لا تزال عدن صامدة.
Meanwhile, Arab foreign ministers are meeting in Egypt to review the situation. The US has authorized logistical and intelligence support for the operation, but they are not taking direct military action in Yemen.
However, that path cannot be pursued as long as you have the Houthis working with former President Saleh to foment a lot of instability in the country. And so we would call on them to stop that instability and that violence and cooperate with this UN-led process.
Yemen plunged into chaos since Houthi rebels started seizing control of the capital and other areas of the country in recent months. The Houthi rebels are Shiite Muslims and Saudis consider them proxies for the Shiite government of Iran. Saudi is apparently fearful of the prospect of an Iranian-run state in their southern border. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The search for the Germanwings flight recorders continued for the third day in the French Alps. The crashed plane's cockpit voice recorder was recovered yesterday. Investigators said evidence from the voice recorder indicated that one pilot left the cockpit before the plane's descent and was unable to get back in. The Airbus A320 from Barcelona to Dusseldorf hit a mountain on Tuesday after a rapid 8-minute descent, leaving all 150 people on board dead. Relatives of the passengers are due to visit the crash site.
We're very glad that the first flight recorder has been retrieved yesterday, and the French authority confirmed just a few hours ago that one of the audio streams is readable. So we expect, hopefully over the next days, more information, and we of course hope that the rescue teams will very soon find the second flight data recorder as well, which will then provide us with a complete picture of the accident.
Now, Sri Lanka's new president, Maithripala Sirisena, on Thursday met his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in Beijing. Sirisena's 6-day visit to China is aimed at ending the stalemate over China's biggest investment project in the island nation. That has been suspended over allegations of wrongdoing. Lanka reportedly assured China that it will provide a favorable business environment. The talks kicked off Sirisena's first visit to China since he took office in January and made a trip to India recently. The two leaders also oversaw signing of 4 agreements on infrastructure, healthcare and development. Now, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif resumed negotiations on Thursday morning, hoping to accelerate progress towards a deal to restrain Iran's nuclear program. At last week's session, the U.S. expressed optimism of reaching first agreement by March 31st. The P5+1 nations, including the United States, UK, Russia, France, Germany and China, and Iran are hoping to complete a deal with all details worked out by the 30th of June. It will lift sanctions on Iran if the Islamic Republic agrees to curbs intended to prevent it from gaining nuclear weapons capability. That's it from us. Goodbye.